Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome. Today we're going to take a look at Sword and Siege Age of Longbow Volume 1 from Wargame Design Studio. Now this is the second game in their Sword and Siege category, the first game in the Age of Longbow series. And if you're not familiar with Wargame Design Studio, they are a PC game development company that has over 100 largely hex encounters war games spanning all kinds of topics from World War II, World War I, Napoleonic, modern airfare, modern battles at all different levels, both strategical, tactical, and operational. They also feature a newsletter where they have 20% off one of their games each week. Links are down below if you want to check that out. Let's talk specifically now about Age of Longbow and what this game focuses on. So the core emphasis of this game is the 100 Years' War. So we've got England versus France and the various allies for both sides involved, spanning from 1337 AD to 1453 AD. As always, Wargame Design Studio packs a lot into a game. There are 90 scenarios that you can play. Now, to be fair, sometimes there'll be 3 variants on one particular battle. So it's not necessarily 90 battles, but 90 scenarios that are packed into the game. In addition to the 90 scenarios, there are also 2 linked campaigns in the game that you can play. To give an idea of scope and scale of the game, one turn represents about 10 minutes. A hex is about 40 meters across. And then unit size, each counter generally I'd say represents about 250 to 300 men. Some scenarios will have ones that represent fewer men, and some scenarios I've seen have a counter that represents as many as 500 men. But that gives you a rough idea of the scale. Let's jump in now and take a look at the getting started scenario and talk about some of the mechanics and features of the gameplay. So I've pulled up here what's called the Getting Started scenario, and this is just a scenario that has a walkthrough tutorial that leads you through the core actions that you'll need for all of the scenarios. And that brings us to 3 main points before we talk about individual features. This game, as in the other games in the series, feels to me easy to learn, hard to master. One of the things that I thought about with Wargame Design Studio games is that they're going to take me a long time to learn how to play. Every time I've dug into one now, it's taking me 30 minutes or less to feel like, okay, yeah, I can play the game. And I just use these walkthrough scenarios and follow through what the tutorial suggests I do, and then I'm ready to play. Having said that, the second thing to mention is that these are incredibly deep games, and they take a long time to play well and understand all the things that are going on. So easy to learn, hard to master, very deep engine underneath it. If we click on one of these units, for example, we can see on the left-hand top bar over here on the left side, we can see how many men is in, strength is in, quality, movement, fatigue. If I right-click on it, I get more things, the ranks, the range, the armor level, victory points. There is just a ton of information and a ton of crunchiness underneath the surface here. And understanding takes time. It's a fun exploration, but yet you don't need all of that to get started with playing. The third thing is to mention also here as well as we looked at on the channel the Crusades Book 1, which was the first game in the Sword and Siege series. And the sequence of play is largely the same. A lot of the features are the same. So if you've played other games in the series or other Wargame Design Studio games, the learning curve is pretty short, I would think, which is nice because that means as you play more games from Wargame Design Studios, you're going to get up to speed more and more quickly. Let's talk now, though, about some of the features that are in this game and some of the things that we're going to be able to explore. Sequence of play is relatively straightforward. You move and fire for one side. It's turn-based. Move and fire for one side. Then that side's going to melee. Then you're going to switch to the other side, and they're going to do the same thing, and it's lather, rinse, repeat as you go through the game. There are things like opportunity fire. So defensively, you can fire on offensive on the other player's units when they are moving. Command and control is big. Fatigue is an element here. We can see these infantry troops that we've clicked on here that are on the left-hand side. Their fatigue level is 0. As you order them to do things, they're going to get tired, and they'll be less able to function well. And they can get so exhausted they're absolutely useless. Morale is here. Supply is here. Unit quality. We can see, for example, these infantry, if we look in the third line on the left-hand side there, their quality is C right now. So you have better troops and weaker troops. Facing matters. Which way troops are looking matters in medieval combat. Horses, cavalry charges, overruns, and we've got other chaotic things of warfare, things like disorder and fog of war, so you can't see. Now this one that I've selected right now, we can see all the units, but if you're playing just one side, your range of vision is going to limit what you can see of the enemy, so you could have a very limited understanding of a battlefield as you start out. As you would expect with facing in medieval combat, formations also matter. And then, unlike in Sword and Siege, we have a lot more artillery units here. We can click on down here. We've got 3 guns here for the French down below in the blue, more guns, different types of guns that are coming here. So artillery playing a bigger role than it did in the Sword and Siege, the Crusades Book 1 game. There are also skirmishers, and then routing is another factor of the chaotic level of warfare. So just a lot of things going on. Let's do a little bit of a scenario walk now to take a look at the various types and amounts of scenarios that are in the game. So the last image we had was of the getting started scenario. That's a basic walkthrough that holds your hand and leads you through some turns getting used to the units. Then after that there are 3 boot camp scenarios, and we're looking right now at boot camp 1, which is an ahistorical scenario called a mixed bag of troops. And this is basically French forces on the left, English forces on the right, and the goal of this scenario, as the description says, is to get you used to handling all the different types of units that are available in Age of Longbow. So you've got longbows, archers, cavalry, just a grand variety of units, crossbows, dragoons, that are present in the game here. And this one just puts them across a field from each other, and then you go have at it. This is probably also a good time to take a quick look at the different zoom levels in the game. There are 3. I can zoom out here with the hexagonal look. There are 3 basic top-down 2D looks. This is especially helpful if you have a big map. This is more of a medium to small scenario probably. And I can zoom into level 2, and then we zoom into level 3, which this is my favorite look. I think it gives the best overall presentation of units and just feels right for me. Now there's 2 3D looks. I'll come in closer for these. If we go like this, I'm not a huge fan for this one. I don't quite get the contrast in the units. Then there is a much closer 3D look that it shows the units in a little bit greater detail. I'm not a big fan of the 3D look too, although when there's towns involved and walls involved, it can look pretty cool. I really like the 2D look. It's simple. I mean, these are modest graphics. You're not getting these games for the eye candy. You're getting these games for the depth of gameplay. This view to me is the most functional and the one that I always use. Of course, we have to take a look at this scenario. Can you guess which one it is? French at the top of the screen, English at the bottom. French forces pouring towards a wall of English longbows here in some pretty rough and undesirable terrain. Yes, of course, and we can see the town name on the left here. This is Agincourt. Now, this one here, we can see the French forces pushing through the mud. They actually, if we click on them, we can see on the left-hand side where all the unit information is. The French forces at the start of the scenario are already disordered, and you're pretty much forced down the middle into the maws of the English longbow, if you would, here. But I mentioned there are often variants for each of the scenarios. In the Agincourt, there are 3 variants for Agincourt. Let's take a look at another one. So this is the Agincourt B scenario, which is a variant. It's not listed necessarily as a historical variant, but it gives you an option as the French. We can see they've got a lot more room to work with around the woods. So theoretically, these French troops, some of them could pull back around and start to threaten the English supply from the rear, forcing the English to do something other than stand in a line and kill all the French troops. So that's an example of, one of the different ways that you could have the same scenario portrayed in a couple of different ways. This one just is at a very bigger scale, giving the French more options to do things other than run up to the English and get killed. Our next scenario is, pardon my pronunciations if I'm off here, Kazan, which is, this is a good example. This is the second scenario, the second real scenario in the game, and it gives you a sense of just the incredible variety of attack and defense options you've got playing these scenarios. This is a beach landing. You've got the French troops landing on the beaches and the English forces defending the beaches. So again, it's fun to just look through these. And this, of course, is I think it's listed as a medium scenario. Let's see if there's any units arrived here. No, there are no units arriving as reinforcements. So what you see is what you get. This is a small scenario, I think. The city of Kazan off to the east here. Now, there is another Kazan scenario. So here is Kazan B scenario, which has the French forces already landed and the English forces defending the town. So another variant on a small scenario. There are a lot of small and medium-sized scenarios in this game. Again, 90 scenarios, just a couple of large ones. So a lot of these I think are playable in bite sizes in single evenings, single sittings. And again, to highlight the variety of scenarios, here is a raiding scenario. This is a small scenario at Southampton, is what it's called. There, if you can see, you say, where are the French forces? They're actually way down here at the town Quay at the bottom, and there are only 3 here. However, if we pick scheduled units, these 5 reinforcement schedules, 310, 320, all the way up to 330. If we double click on them, we can see more French forces coming in. So the French are going to get reinforced landing here. The idea is to break up into Southampton and do as much damage and cause as much chaos as possible. So again, a really interesting variety and type of scenarios that you find in the game. It's not just 2 forces in a line hitting each other for 90 scenarios. There is some incredible thought and variety put into these. 1346, the Battle of Crécy. I may have got that wrong. A medium to medium-large size scenario, I would say. You can see the English forces in a line. I mean, this is 2 forces in a line getting to hit each other in a field, right? So just a big battle of forces going to be just slugging it out as they go forward to try to take the day here. You can zoom out. We can see a fairly large map here. I wonder if there are reinforcements coming as well. Yes, 8 o'clock in the evening. There are some French reinforcements on the way to strengthen their side. 1346, the Battle of Neville's Cross. This is the historical scenario. We can see this one starts out, if you just want to get right into things, both forces have already engaged with each other. We've got troops that are disordered, troops that have suffered casualties, and just ready to go at it here. And there are 2 variants for Neville's Cross. Let's take a look at a second one here. So here is the scenario A of Neville's Cross, which is the same force pools. It's an earlier start in the day, so the forces start farther apart from each other, giving you a chance to maneuver and use the terrain better and play a different type of scenario. So a lot of these scenarios start, there'll be a historical situation, then a variant that starts earlier, different force pools, different options to explore. They do a good job, I think, of building off and exploring some of the hypothetical and alternative aspects of what could have happened had things been a little bit different historically. Here's one of the relatively small number of large scenarios in Age of Longbow. This is Calais, which is a what-if variant. Now, historically, the English laid siege to the city in 1346 and it surrendered in 1347. The French were unable to muster any sort of a relief attempt. This one gives the French a chance and says, what if the French could relieve them, attempted to relieve and break the siege at Calais. Now, they don't have they have a small garrison here inside the city, if we look at it here. But where their units are here are scheduled to arrive. They have 4 basic piles of reinforcements that are come in from the east and try to relieve the siege of the city here. And we can see this is zoomed all the way out. This is a big map to play on. We've got some English units way down here in the south as well. Here is a very small scenario. There's only a couple very small ones in the game as well. Just a handful of units in the French and a handful of units for the English here. Lunalong is the name of the scenario. Looks like the French only have less than 2,000 men, and the English here have 75, just a few hundred men to try to hold them off. So this would be great. I mean, you could probably play this in 10, 15 minutes, I think. Nice small scenario. Again, giving an example of the range of possibilities that you can play. And I should mention, there's a full scenario editor and a campaign editor as well. Allows you to carve the maps up and do different things with force pools. You can build your own scenarios with these as well. All the way zoomed out on another large scenario, Beaugency. This is a what-if scenario. The English forces here, we can see them, a massive train of English forces working their way from the east to the west. A French line of defenders trying to stop them. And then if we scroll over here, we have what I think is the ultimate goal, which is this town. Now, the French do also get some reinforcements in this one, but if we scroll all the way out here, we can see this is a massive map. We also have an interesting situation here on the east as well, where there are some French relief forces here, but they have to fight their way across a bridge. They've got a bridgehead here, but the English look like they're going to have to bottle them up and keep them in. Lots of fun things going on. Oftentimes these larger scenarios will have a couple of aspects to them, fighting on 2 sides of the battle with reinforcements coming, so they tend to play out in very interesting ways. Here's a small historical scenario, Pont Remy, which has the French defending the town here, a river crossway, and the English forces trying to make their way in a line down this narrow causeway across this bridge. Now, both sides have reinforcements coming in. English have a lot of archers to bring to bear on the problem as well. Small map, small scenario. Looks like it could be a lot of fun. Last but not least, a very interesting historical scenario. Castillon, which has English forces holed up in a town, French forces surrounding them, French forces coming from the east, English forces coming from the north. Lots of stuff going on this one. Looks like you're trying to capture the town. The English are trying to hold it. The French are trying to take it. The English reinforcements are trying to beat back the French attack. Lots of interesting stuff going on in this one. So there you have it, a look at Sword and Siege Age of Longbow Volume 1, the second game in the Sword and Siege series, first game in Age of Longbow. I'll be back to show some gameplay from the game at some point in the near future. In the meanwhile, I'd be curious to hear what you think and happy to try to answer any questions. Sword and Siege Crusades Book 1 was I've just had so much fun with that game that I am extremely excited to dig into this one as well. This system just seems to handle medieval combat very, very well. So let me know what you think. Happy to answer any questions. I'll put a link to the gameplay scenario as soon as it's ready. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.